The position of the Muslim community in the face of all provocations seems to be Islam is a religion of peace. And if you say that it isn't, we will kill you. The words of Sam Harris, contemporary intellectual, who I run kind of hot and cold on, if I'm honest. But that does seem to be the general consensus, doesn't it? The words of our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, following. Islamist and Islamism is the greatest threat to freedom, security, and prosperity of the United States and the entire world. The words of Tulsi Gabbard. I'm pretty much unequivocal on my love for that woman, but she echoes the sentiments of Sam Harris. There's a few words that we should get used to with regard to these things, and those are words from Islam itself. Taqiyya, tactical deceit for the purposes of spreading Islam. This is what you see them doing at press conferences after terror attacks when they pretend to denounce the killers. Tawrira, deceit by ambiguity, doublespeak, refusing to give straight answers. We've seen Ilhan Omar do that on more than one occasion. Maruna, the temporary suspension of Sharia in order that Muslim immigrants appear moderate. And of course, Kitman, deceit by omission, withholding key information. This is how they infiltrate Western societies. This is how they use our own moral principles and legal principles against us. This is how they have been able to make strongholds out of places like Dearborn, Michigan. Yes, bad enough that they've been able to carry it forward to reach Main Street, but this week, tragically enough, it reached, well, Sesame Street. Yeah, we never thought it would get there, but yeah, apparently the incursions are making inroads. We got to see on Sesame Street that they wished us all a blessed Ramadan, and the beloved Elmo even chimed in on a tweet. Ramadan Mubarak to all of Elmo's friends. Elmo loves you. Not only have they infiltrated Main Street, but they've infiltrated Sesame Street. And I just wanted to give a more realistic assessment of how such a scenario would play out. Mr. Hooper's old store, a much beloved institution in the community, has become a mosque. And the Muslim call to prayer is broadcast through loudspeakers 5 times a day. Oscar, being a creature of his temperament, was the first to react in opposition to it. Being the grouch that he is, that didn't really sit well with him. And Oscar, oddly enough, has gone missing. His whereabouts are undetermined, but Gordon and Susan, a rift was created between the two of them. Gordon was an early adherent. He enjoyed what he heard through the doctrines of Islam and became an early convert. Susan, on the other hand, being a fiery woman of Christian faith from the American South, was quoted as saying, "Aw, hell nah." Susan was dragged into the middle of the street and publicly stoned for her trouble. Big Bird and Snuffleupagus were seen by the new Muslim leadership as abominations in the eyes of Allah, and both were put to slaughter in halal fashion. Now, once they did a little more digging into the more obscure passages in the hadith, they found that the flesh of Snuffleupagus was, in fact, haram, but Big Bird was eaten at a local feast. Now, Bob, being the good guy that he's always been, well, he became a proper dhimmi and now pays his taqiyya tax to the Muslim leadership, and or rather his jizya tax to the Muslim leadership. I'm getting my Islamic principles confused. Beg your pardon. But he's currently tolerated. Currently tolerated. Luis and Maria, both being Latino and both being Catholic, decided they would take the gap and get the hell out of Dodge. And after being briefly detained by ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, they were released. Ernie and Bert, tragically, were thrown from the roof of the tenement building under mysterious circumstances, their bodies found splattered on the staircase at the front of said tenement building. I guess we can at least put to rest the age old question of were they best friends or, in fact, gay? David, holding it down at the store, this was a photograph sourced from the CIA. He has actually infiltrated the Muslim movements. We need to keep that on the down low lest he suffer a terrible fate. And yes, it turns out that the Muppet Ferlinghetti was, in fact, a CIA handler. Let's wish him the best of success in that mission in taking back Sesame Street for Christendom. All kidding aside, guys, we swear by the Quran and Sunnah that we will not compromise with any infidel. Islam is the truth and all else is falsehood. Jadunath Sakar, murder of non-Muslims is a merit. The murder of infidels, even if they are innocent, is counted a merit in Islam. It is not necessary that he should have his own passion or mortify the flesh. It is not necessary for him to grow a rich growth of spirituality. He has only to slay a certain class of his fellow beings or plunder their lands and wealth, and this act is itself will raise his Muslim soul to heaven. A religion where followers are taught to regard robbery and murder as a religious duty is incompatible with the progress of mankind or with the peace of the world. Even Monica Crowley chiming in. I mean, the quotes could go on forever, but even a mainstream media observer was able to make the basic observation. Many Muslims may not seek to kill the infidel, but they don't want to condemn those carrying out the holy book command. It's all the same all over the world. We're seeing them take over Europe. We're seeing them take over all Western lands. We're seeing them take down Western civilizations from the inside. And it extends to how they operate within those civilizations. And yes, it extends to organizations and regimes in foreign countries, up to and including the one that we bombed strategically over the course of the last 72 hours. Now, there are plenty of people who will make excuses. Not every Muslim. We're only doing it for Israel. Only doing it for Israel. Specifics count. We'll get into a bit of those later. But for anyone who would suggest that a strike that took out Khamenei is a bad thing, well, I'm going to quote William F. Buckley. I won't insult your intelligence by suggesting that you really believe what you just said. There's one feed on Instagram that I'm fond of that I've already recommended to y'all, and they summed it up pretty well in a simple 4-panel with regard to the American left and their regard to Islam. Khamenei spent 35 years funding militias that killed thousands of Americans across the world, yet the left call his death an unprovoked attack. Khamenei's morality police beat women to death for showing their hair, yet Western feminists call his death an unprovoked attack. Khamenei hanged gay men from cranes in public squares. Didn't even come close to chart. That's a little sidebar. Yet LGBTQ activists call his death an unprovoked attack. That's right, boys and girls. The world today has one less dictator, one who had the blood of millions of people on his hand. Yet some people are upset about it. Think about what that tells you. It tells me a lot of things. Listen, I'm no fan of U.S. foreign policy and forever wars for empire. I'm certainly no fan of the godless secular nation, the godless Christ-denying nation of Israel. But to deny that this man being dead is anything but a resounding success, I find baffling. Getting back to the analogy that we went with, it would have been better if we'd have done it sooner. It would have been better if America had acted sooner. And it certainly would have been better if Europe had acted sooner in pushing back the never-ending push of Islam toward world domination. Perhaps when they took over Sesame Street, if they'd have been met with something like this, or even something like this. And for the letters that are bringing you Sesame Street today, perhaps those Islamists that took over Sesame Street and are wishing you a Ramadan Mubarak on Elmo's behalf should be educated on F is for flamethrower, I is for infiltration, H is for high ground, and K is for kiss your ass goodbye. Yeah, I'm trying to make light of it, but there really isn't a whole lot of humor to be found. Not across the whole spectrum, whether it be the media's perspective or the intellectual dishonesty of the left, or even those on the conservative side that are taking on leftist attributes. We're going to talk about all of that. But for right now, let's just call this one a win. One more dead guy that had no love for the West. If you hate Israel more than you love your own nation, then you're more than welcome to hold that opinion. But can we not get together on the one irrefutable aspect of this? That the high command of the largest terror sponsor in the United States was taken out with a surgical strike. And as of yet, we don't have U.S. boots on the ground. I'm going to call that a resounding success. You're more than welcome to feel otherwise, and we'll have that discussion. But I think the biggest problem is that we've been down so long that the bottom looks like up, and that we don't even know how to recognize a win when we see it anymore. More's the pity. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. And I cannot stress this enough now that I'm back to work. Certainly not employers. That one's for the sake of you docs, happy Antifa maggots out there. Do your best. You've tried and failed before. In any case, the aforementioned opinions have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to stretch open that unwilling maw and stuff it with fistful after fistful of truth cock until your eyeballs either rupture and bleed or the scales come off when they open. And either way, mission accomplished. Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. Glad y'all could make it out. Hope y'all took advantage of the warning that I gave you to fill up your tanks. I don't think things are going to get sideways any more than they already have. Right now, all I'm concerned is, where's the fire? Everybody in for the drum roll. Hard charging out of the starting gate as we come reeling and rocking every single Sunday, with a few notable exceptions, to the strains of the American band Red Desert Gut Stomp and Rock and Roll Band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older, No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older. Every week you guys get to decide if I have gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. Right now we're going to roll through the roll call, see which one of the usual suspects are on board early. Looks like y'all had a lively conversation going. Roman taking the gold, which means that Carrie is floating around somewhere, and I'm looking forward to seeing her. Brother Ryan taking the silver medal. Glad you made it out. Probably going to be a lot that you're not going to like about what I'm going to say today, brother, but that's why we're brothers. We're going to address each other honestly, because there's probably going to be a lot you're going to agree with as well. In any case, got those two on board. The OG Sinner Sister herself, Miss Emmy, the divine Miss Emmy. Glad to hear that your husband was okay. We got those prayer warriors together and sent out a request for him. I'm glad that he's all right, man. It could have been a hell of a lot worse, but I didn't even need to tell you that. You guys already knew. Dennis Weimer, OG Reverend's Ranger from all the way back in the early 90s, on board. Glad to have you here, brother. Good to see you. See who else made it out. I think my lovely wife is waiting in the wings somewhere, no doubt. Very upset with the Sesame Street bit. Is what it is, man. I'm trying to make a larger point. Sometimes it comes across better than others. There is Miss Carrie. I knew that she was going to be hanging back. Deacon Mark making the party on the back porch with his lovely wife, Ida, no doubt, sipping some adult sodas and some smokable consumables. Wish I could be joining you to that effect, boys and girls, but we're here. Everybody's on board. Probably going to be a few people dragging in late. Brother Jude Howe, brother of the hook, brother in arms, brother in Christ. Good to see you, man. Glad you made it. Brother Turtle from Iron Pig Armament. Guys, if you are looking to spend your money on weapons-related accessories, up to and including little bang bangs. You need to be spending your money with Brother Turtle over at Iron Pig Armament, man. He is doing some fantastic work over there. And Shelly, oh my goodness. Love you so much, babe. Love you so much. I'm glad that you made it out. Bill Wade on board. And Shelly, I'm glad that you enjoyed the opening as well. I didn't know how that was going to play out, man. I was just trying to find humor in a dark, dark situation, man. We are up against it, boys and girls. And that came to a head this week. Brother Bill, glad you were on board. Been a minute since I've seen you. Going to be giving you a call soon, man, just to check out and see how you're doing. Little sip of liquid enthusiasm before we get started here. Yeah. Little draw from the Iron Infidel Battle Bottle. They are not a paid sponsor, but they have become a priceless piece of kit that I carry around every single day. I'm glad that the Wi-Fi is up to spec in this new motel that I found myself in, man. We shifted gears. I am in a little nameless town in the Texas Hill Country, little place called Hubbard. We'll be doing some more sermons from Hubbard as the time goes on. We're going to be dealing with a whole lot of stuff from here, including a very special sermon that I've got coming up in about a month or so. You guys will know it when you see it. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of details, but it's important stuff. Important stuff. What's up, Mr. Jake? Still waiting on that phone call, brother. You know, I'm going to leave it there. Brother Wayne Sharp from all the way back to grade school days, man. Glad you made it out. And I saw your brother. Your brother sent me a message on Facebook thanking me for recommending filling up the tank. Apparently, he took my advice. Again, guys, I knew these strikes were coming. Anybody with a couple of brain cells rubbed together knew that the strikes were coming. It was just a matter of how sideways it could possibly get. And so far, the sideways contingencies have been kept to a relative minimum, which is good news across the board. But we're going to deal with that later on in the program. We're going to get into some of the specifics of it, how people are going to be affected, how people are taking it, how people's reactions really aren't lining up with their previously held positions, and why I have the position that I do, which is going to make me unpopular with a whole lot of people, more so on the conservative side, oddly enough, than with the political left. But again, we can get into all that later, man. We're going to go ahead and fade the bumper music out so we can jump right in and get this party started. And I want to get the sponsor shout outs out of the way as well. Once again, Red Desert, Older, No Wiser. That is our bumper music. Those guys have been cool enough to let us use that track as bumper music for 6 years. Can you believe we are coming up on 6 years of doing this doggone thing? I can't even believe I'm still here. I can't even believe y'all are still hanging out, but I'm thankful for it, and I feel a lot less like that lone voice in the wilderness for being able to continue with that, and it makes me feel good, man. I'm glad you guys have hung tough over the years. You guys can see that the background has changed. I have taken up full residency here at my new motel. Lovely Miss Charlie was sweet enough to participate yesterday in getting the move from the one bad motel, the walk-in closet that I'd been living in previously, and get everything organized here. And she put her considerable organizational skills to good use. This actually feels like a residence. It actually feels like a college dorm and not a walk-in closet. And that's it's really a good thing. And it was a very loving and selfless thing for her to do. And I'm very thankful for her, and I'm very thankful for her taking the time to do that. Let's get the sponsor shout outs out of the way real quick. Of course, always first and foremost, Brother Roman. We go all the way back to 1988 together over at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. He's always been one of the most creative people I've ever known, whether it's musically or artistically. We're talking tastefully done, beautiful, naked women. And testosterone-driven commentary. On Planet Bart, we call that a trifecta, so it's a good thing. Go check him out on Substack, and check him out on Amazon as well, where he publishes under Roman Riva. You can find him on Amazon, Roman Riva. He has Roman Freely, which is a collection of his watercolor work that is out. He's also doing short fiction over on Amazon, and of course, check him out on Substack. And guys, I cannot recommend this enough. For those of you who are already on Substack, you need to start making a shift over in that direction and at least get an account. Maybe you're not going to be producing content, but for serious thinkers, it's a much better platform. than Facebook or any of the other social media platforms. You have people doing long form essays. These are serious thinkers. A lot of them are former legacy media big guys who were tired of the censorship, and they finally found a platform over at Substack where there is no censorship, right? Matt Taibbi is over there now. Glenn Greenwald, who broke the Edward Snowden story, he's over there now because legacy media ultimately, as they're falling apart, are eating their own, and they're making sure that you follow the narrative no matter what. These people were serious journalists, even guys like Greenwald, with whom I disagree. They're going over to Substack. You need to be on Substack. And I say all that to bring it back to Roman, and check out Opium Tales over on Substack because he's crushing it over there. And it's really good to see some of the work that he's doing. Also want to give a shout out to my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison from Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the inland Northwest. Period. End of statement. Sit down, shut up, you're wrong. The big smoker trailer, their Viking longship, is sailing the asphalt seas. They're doing catering gigs up there. You can have them cater your stuff, and periodically they're setting up in just random locations up there. So follow Nordic Smoke Barbecue on Facebook and all their other social media platforms. Check them out. Dusty is still the pit master over there. Casey, the younger brother, combat vet, he has gone on to bigger and better things. He has passed the Washington State Bar and is now an attorney. I've got him on retainer. If you're in the Spokane area, you should look him up, Casey Tellison, and get him on retainer as well. He is busting chops in the legal sense, and he's doing some great things. He's got a book on Amazon as well. It is a book called Freaks of a Feather. That book is a combat memoir that began as a suicide note. What more do I need to tell you than that? Beyond the fact that he's an incredibly gifted writer, and so that's it's a really great book. Just check it out. It's going to take you to some dark places. It is not light reading by any stretch of the imagination, but take care of the people who are taking care of me, who are taking care of the program. We're talking about putting together a community of like minds and kindred spirits. Sometimes, I should point out, going into some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today, those like minds and kindred spirits are going to disagree. And there's going to be no shortage of that in the coming weeks as this thing plays out. We see we got a couple people jumping in. Joel, glad you made it out. And, of course, Preacher George, always good to see you show up, brother. Always good to see you show up, and it's always good to interact with you over on Facebook, man. Good to see you guys out here. Glad you made it out. Glad you made it out. All right, so what do you say we jump into this, and we'll go bullet point by bullet point. Let's just, I'm not going to rehash everything because we've had the entirety of the week to rehash the State of the Union address. I watched it stem to stern, and let's just say, as a capsule review, that the Democrats basically handed the Republican Party the entire body of their campaign ads for the 2026 midterms. I don't have the brightest prospect for the Republican Party in the midterms. If you would ask me a month ago, I'd have said they were going to get crushed. If you're asking me now, I would say it's going to be a squeaker, because the aberrant behavior of the Democrats on the House floor was just something to behold, man. I understand Orange Man bad. I understand that you were compelled. First of all, let me say this. I watch C-SPAN the way most American men watch ESPN. So for me, this was Super Bowl Sunday, which is not to say that I had anything in with either of the teams that are in the Super Bowl, but it's the event, right? I watch the State of the Union. I keep track of these things. You know, when Obama was in office, when Biden was in office, I watched the State of the Union religiously to get a gauge on where the overall zeitgeist, politically speaking, of the country is going, right? Which way it's leaning, what the prospects are, what the predictable legacy media party line is going to be. It's a thing for me. It's my pro sports. So yeah, I watched. I'm not thrilled with Donald Trump right now, and I've made no secret of that fact. I neither deify nor demonize. I do not think he is all of the things that people are purporting him to be, but I do not for a second believe that he is all of the things that the Trump cultists hold him up to be. He is a human being who happens to be at the helm of the ship of state right now. And I take it for exactly what it is. He is going to make good calls. He is going to make bad calls. He is going to make catastrophically bad calls. And he's made several of them. I think Pam Bondi definitely needs to go, but I'm getting way off task right now. DOJ maladies with regard to the Epstein files aside, the Democrats showed their true face. They showed their true face, absolutely and without equivocation, during the State of the Union speech. I understand that they are required by their party to remain seated because we cannot give the President of the United States, this President of the United States, a single raised hand, a single round of applause, even if the things that he is proposing is something that we can all easily agree on. But this was something else. Any mainstream Democrat who can still align themselves with what that party has become at this point, I have to question either your information sources or your soul. Irina Zarutska was brutally murdered on a train by someone who was only walking the streets because of policies specifically tied to Democrats. This is not both sides. You will not find a single Republican that supports cashless bail or equity-based sentencing or any of the things that keeps turning these repeat violent felons loose to stab immigrants, to set women on fire. Unless and until I see that same energy come out of you for the end results of your policies, don't talk to me about how much you advocate for women. I don't want to hear it because you don't. This is a measurable, verifiable, horrible thing for women, and you don't care. You care only in as much as it benefits your party and their politics. That's it. Dozens of women every single week are being beaten, raped, and killed as a result of these policies. And you say nothing because it's your team that has proposed these policies and implements these policies. You say nothing. Nothing. So spare me the sanctimony. Spare me your disingenuous nonsense about I care so much for women's issues, because you don't. Liar. Coward. You don't. That escalated quickly. They could not stand for Irina Zarutska's family. Trump, love him or hate him, described what happened to that woman, took a stand against those policies, and the only Democrat that stood was John Fetterman. Only Fetterman, no one else. No one else in the Democratic Party but John Fetterman stood up. And he took to calling them out. He called them out, as well he should have. None of you can even stand. None of you stand for that. Right. None of them stand for that. Because they don't care about women. They don't care about violence against women, except as it benefits them and their narrative. They don't care. I presented a survey, and I presented it here on the sermon a number of times before. You guys are familiar with it, about the dips and ebb and flow in how Democrats versus Republicans and independents feel about being proud to be an American. The Republican Party across the board, all the way across the board, minor dips here and there, but across the board, they're at the top of the list. The Democrats fluctuate wildly depending on who is in control of the Oval Office. They do not love their country. They love their party. Period. Full stop. I am not being hyperbolic. I am not exaggerating. And I am not saying that the Republican Party is doing a fine job. If anything, they are feckless, gutless, nutless, and spineless right now because they control essentially all of government right now, all three branches. They control the judiciary, they control the Oval, and they control both houses of Congress right now. And they have done nothing. So I'm not taking pride in the Republican Party, but I am damn proud to be an American. I was proud to be an American over the 4 years of watching puppeteers do the weekend at Bernie thing with Joe Biden's corpse. I was still proud to be an American. So for the State of the Union, yes, the only thing the Democratic Party succeeded in was giving Republicans their campaign ad for the 2026 midterms. Can't stand for a woman who was murdered. Can't stand for Olympic athletes winning the gold. Can't stand for children being surgically mutilated. Can't stand for anything. And instead, screaming, shrieking the predictable histrionics. It was sickening. It was sickening to watch. But I'm glad that we got to see them in all their glory. I'm glad that we got to see it in no uncertain terms, and I am thankful that they have exposed themselves. And now, midterms are a toss up. It's really a lot going to depend on how what we commenced in the last 72 hours plays out. That's going to have everything to do with how 2026 is going to play out at the polls, as well as, and I'm not going to belabor this because it isn't crucially important, getting back to those feckless, spineless, useless Republicans in Congress. Two things are going to matter going into the midterms. After the State of the Union, two things are going to matter. How this thing in Iran ultimately plays out is number one. And number two, can they muster the balls to pass the SAVE Act and ensure the integrity of our elections? If the SAVE Act passes and holds up to judicial and constitutional challenges, the Democrats will never win another election in the United States. Not on a national level. They'll still win in Washington state because, well, actually, they may not. Because if we can get through paper ballots, same day voting, right, and voter ID and proof of citizenship, I don't think they'll win another election. We know how the American people feel about voter ID. 89% of Democrats, this is another thing that came up with State of the Union, 89% of Democrats support what's in the SAVE Act. And yet, Democrats just sat there. Disgusting. Filth. Like I said, with the notable exception of John Fetterman and with the partial exception for Ro Khanna because of what he's doing on the Epstein files. The rest of them wouldn't give a bucket of warm piss for the lot of them. Horrible people. Been on one thing, control. They have gone so far left that JFK, the most prominent Democratic president in American history, would be considered a right-wing extremist by today's Democratic Party. They are hell-bent on one thing, and that is the collapse of the nation and the reinstitution of it in their collective utopia. It's not going to happen. We will go down fighting. If we go down at all, we may be able to pull this out. But it's going to take some stones and it's going to take some sacrifice. So that is my capsule review on my thoughts on the State of the Union, and we'll see exactly how that plays out going in. Let me see. Here we go. I want to touch on something before we go any further. I want to get into the scripture part of the program. Uh, One last thing, and it was a quote that I didn't drop from Sam Harrison. This was supposed to close the opener. It is time that we admitted that we are not at war with terrorism. We are at war with Islam. This is not to say that we are at war with all Muslims, but we are absolutely at war with the vision of life that is prescribed to all Muslims in the Quran. The only reason Muslim fundamentalism is a threat to us is because the fundamentals of Islam are a threat to us. No truer words have ever escaped Sam Harris's mouth. And again, I run hot and cold on Sam. He's a thinker, but his intellectual honesty has been corrupted. All right, let's jump off into the scripture reading, and this is going to be from 1 Kings chapter 18. Verse 36, and it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Verse 37, hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Verse 38, then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. Verse 39. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and they said, the Lord, he is the God, the Lord, he is the God. Verse 40, and Elijah said unto them, take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them. And Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon and slew them there. Anything hippie Jesus in that little passage? Granted, it's Old Testament. We're still dealing with fire and brimstone God. But as long as that is the push of what, because with all the talk about Christian nationalism and that we're not real Christians, this milquetoast version of fake Christianity and false doctrine that they are trying to sell to people now, they'd make no allowance for that. Elijah did what? Elijah made treaties with them and accepted them and was tolerant. No, that's not what happened. Elijah embraced that people have different paths to God. No, that's not what happened. Elijah told them to live their truth. That's not what happened. Elijah took them down to the river and slew them there. Prophets of Baal, what more do you need than to take a look at modern Islam and its doctrines? What more do you need to take a look at the American left and their unholy alliance with that faith and its doctrines? They are bent on destroying Christendom. They are bent on destroying the West. They are bent on destroying and upending Christianity. And they spread their false doctrines. They spread their false gospel. They spread their false theology and try to convince Christians that they worship a hippie Jesus and that anyone that tells them otherwise is trying to lead them astray. This is your sword. This is your sidearm. This is the weapon that you carry into battle. And this is what you should have your face in at least one chapter a night. And this isn't for show, guys. You can see here, dog-eared, highlighted, everything. I'm not doing this for show, people. This is the weapon. Do you understand? This is the sword. Are you tracking? This is the sword with which we defeat our enemies. You can only be led astray if you aren't familiar with the word. When they come to you with these deconstructionist false doctrines, when they try to lead you astray into this hippie Jesus nonsense, you cannot be misled if you are steeped in the word. And this is where we fail. Snake's gonna snake. Demon's gonna demon. This is where we fail as Christians, by not rooting ourselves in the word enough and without encouraging enough of our brothers to root themselves in the word, that they not be led astray. That is a failing that is no longer acceptable. Step up. Know your enemy. Don't be afraid to call evil for evil, and know from whence you speak. Am I clear? Good. Let's move on. First bullet point, a thing called force doctrine. One of the things that is assigned to men, all men, particularly Christian men, particularly to straight white Christian men. All right, let's get it down to brass tacks and be very specific about what we're talking about. White, straight Christian men. We are the root of all evil. We have done horrible things all over the world, and we deserve to pay a price and have everything ripped from us because we are innately evil, we are innately violent, we are innately controlling. A little thing that came up. You guys are familiar with Andrew Wilson. If you are not familiar with Andrew Wilson, you should be familiar with Andrew Wilson. Men have a monopoly on force. This is going to play into exactly what we're talking about here, because the allegations that are being made against us, they outright admit that we have a monopoly on force. Particularly straight white Christian men have a monopoly on force, and that is how we've been able to get away with all the horrible things that we've been able to do throughout the years. You know, like elevating 2/3 of the world that was living in poverty, introducing the darkest regions of this planet to things like sustainable agriculture and indoor plumbing, representative government, paved roads. You know what horrible people we are. Doubling their life expectancy, cutting their infant mortality rate in half. You know, all those dreadful things that we did as colonizers. Here's the thing. If you are assigning to us that we are inherently evil and violent, now that you have conceded that we have a monopoly on force, you're putting yourself into a bit of a logical quandary. Jack Donovan, if you haven't read Violence is Golden, you need to look up that essay from Jack Donovan. Roman, if you'd be so kind as to put that over in the notes so they can do it. Violence is Golden by Jack Donovan. This is a quote from that essay. Without action, words are just words. Without violence, laws are just words. Violence isn't the only answer, but it is the final answer. So how does this pertain to force doctrine as professed by Andrew? And Andrew relegates himself to it being part of the anti-feminist question. I think Andrew sells the argument short by doing that. His supposition is that we do have a monopoly on force, and as such, it is only our benevolence that enables us to be having this conversation. What are you talking about? We have had the monopoly on force and violence. And I'm talking about straight, white, Christian, European men and the civilization that we created. We have that monopoly on force. If we were truly evil and violent and hateful and bent on conquest and all of the other things that you can provide no real indication for, historically speaking, we wouldn't be having the conversation at all. If we hated women and wanted to subjugate them, we would subjugate them. And there isn't a damned thing that they could do to oppose it. If we as men wanted to subjugate women, If we as Christian men wanted to subjugate other religions, Western civilization is still rooted in Christianity, and we've got the biggest nuclear arsenal on the planet. If we were hell bent on subjugating the rest of the world, we would do so, and there is nothing that anyone could do about it. If, when we hit the shores of the Americas, that it was our hate and drive for conquest and subjugation that drove us, I think there'd be a bit fewer casinos on Indian reservations right now. Don't you think? If we really were what you say we are, what you beat us over the head with every single day that we are, there'd be no conversation to be had. It is only by our benevolence. Other examples, Bart? So glad you asked. The alphabet people. You understand that the queer Palestine crowd is, beknownst to them or not, advocating for their own extinction. Do you understand that? The only reason that trans people are allowed to lift a voice or exist is the benevolence that, that same religion that they seem bent on believing wants them all dead. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, it's quite the contrary. We are the only reason you're alive. If the West falls and if Islam conquers, you're all dead. In a matter of weeks, you are all dead. Down to the last woman, whichever of the two genders you relate to. You're all dead. Getting back to the force doctrine reference, oh, you're oppressed here under a Christian nation, at the same one you're reminding us isn't a Christian nation, but then beating us over the head when it suits your narrative because we're a Christian nation and therefore oppressive. You're oppressed because you don't get your first choice of baker for your wedding cake. You still get the cake. You just have to go to a different bakery to get it. Oh, the oppression. You're allowed to live your life as long as you're a consenting adult. You're allowed to transition. All of these things we handed over out of that sense of benevolence, out of that sense of forgiveness, out of that sense of not judging, even on things with which we vehemently disagree. It's all yours. Try that in a Muslim country. Have your family notify me when your body is being shipped home. So, on behalf of all of us, straight white Christian males who are the plague of everyone's existence, we're done apologizing. You only exist because we allow it. And the only thing that will remove us from that is our own misplaced sense of guilt. Now, that's going to make me unpopular in a whole lot of circles. We have lifted everyone up in spite of the horrible things that we have done. And they are great and they are many. We have lifted everyone up. Christianity, as the anchor for Western civilization, has lifted everyone up. Everywhere we have shown up, let's take Indigenous Peoples Day, for example. When we showed up in modern day Central and South America, that entire civilization was based on human sacrifice. Neighboring tribes allied with white Christian conquistadors. Why? Because they were tired of having their babies dragged from their arms and set to slaughter to appease the sun god at the top of the pyramid. In spite of the horrible things that we have done, we have been a net good to the world. And it's time that we started acknowledging that. With regard to force doctrine, and I'll go ahead and take it off the violence is golden thing. While we're talking about Andrew Wilson, let's talk about his wife, Rachel Wilson. I should point out for my brothers in faith here, Rachel Wilson was interviewed on Joe Rogan this week, and it's definitely worth a listen. Andrew is an Eastern Orthodox Christian by his own profession and a self-professed Christian nationalist by his own political confession. So know what you're getting into going in with regard to that. That interview, women's suffrage. What do we know about women's suffrage? I'll tell you one injustice with regard to all the feminists that like to complain about it. Women got the vote before a lot of black men got the vote. So much for your tyranny of masculinity, ladies. You got the vote before black men did in much of this country. Somehow you'll find a way to blame that on us, of course, but you got the vote before black men. Do you understand that? Black men, some of whom antebellum, after the Civil War, were landowners and free men. And you still got the vote before they did. But again, oppression, oppression, oppression. There are some things about history that need to be known because there's a big push. You've seen this graphic everywhere, haven't you? Repeal the 19th, right? And of course, it's kind of a political in-joke. But Rachel Wilson, Andrew's wife, brought up some interesting things over that. First of all, before we dive into it, let's just look. This is the Electoral College map in 2020 if only women would have been allowed to vote. If only women would have been allowed to vote, that is what the 2020 election would have looked like. You can find online, there's a resource that I pulled that from. You'll be able to find it online if you look for it. It's how it breaks down all of these elections from 2016 to 2020 to 2024. If only men voted, if only women voted, if only landowners voted, if only, and it breaks it down by demographic. But the repeal the 19th crowd is basically hanging their hat on the fact that women cannot be trusted to vote because they vote entirely based on their emotion in spite of greater evidence, and that they are too readily deceived. Now, in the modern era, you're never going to be able to sell that. Okay, and again, getting back to that force doctrine thing. If we didn't want women to vote, you wouldn't be voting. Do you understand? If we wanted to strip the vote from you, we would strip the vote from you. You have us confused with Muslims. See, that's where I think you're drawing the distinction. You have Christian men in America confused with Muslims. If we wanted to subjugate you and take away your rights and take away your vote and dress you in a beekeeper outfit and subject you to public stoning or beheading for showing a little skin to your husband's dislike, we could do that. Want to know how I know? Because in countries all over the world, Muslims do. Up to and including Iran until very, very recently. We'll get into that a little more later. a little thing that came up, and this is one of the things, and I'm just going to read it verbatim here. Some of the things that Rachel Wilson pulled up, and I did go through. I haven't fact checked all of it, but these first three, I want to make sure the first three that I'm about to rattle off here, I wanted to make sure that I had fact checked them. And I expect you to fact check me, fact checking her. Do not take my word for anything. But here's some truth about the women's suffrage movement that you might not have previously been aware of. Okay? Women's suffrage was so unpopular among women that when they had the chance to vote on it, only a small number of women even showed up. And out of the ones that did, thousands nationwide, only 4% actually wanted it. Do you know what happened after that? You can fact check that. Go and fact check it. Put me on pause. Go fact check it. Whatever you got to do right now, or fact check it after the sermon. You go. Go. True. Susan B. Anthony, that feminist suffragette hero, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, another one. Whenever the topic came out again and they knew about this lack of enthusiasm, they actually lobbied to have it not be voted on by women. Let me clear that up for you. When they brought it up the first time, only 4% of women wanted it. It was clearly something that was opposed by most American women. So they brought it up for a vote again. And Susan B. Anthony, that suffragette hero, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, that suffragette hero, saw to it that when it was brought up again, that women were not allowed to vote on being able to vote. Do you want to know why you have the right to vote, ladies? Men. Benevolence. Benevolence under force doctrine. Your right to vote exists because we allow it. Nothing more. Now, you don't have to give us a pat on the back for that. We're doing what we feel is the right thing. But at the very least, we're not going to sit here and be told what terrible people we are. Because the only reason you're able to tell us that we are terrible people is because we allow that too. Why? Because it is the right thing. That is the benevolence in Christian men. You don't have to agree, but you're going to, by God, know how I feel about this. And you are going to, by God, sit there and not be able to say that I'm not making a reasonable case if you actually are capable of logic and have two brain cells left to rub together. There is a benevolence that exists that you will find in no other civilization on the planet. You're welcome. Again, number 3, the suffragettes themselves were also into the occult. I'm not just spewing for the kingdom here. Fact check that. The suffragettes were into the occult. 95% of them were involved in the occult and believed that Christianity was the patriarchy. You know, that patriarchy that still needs to be struck down. At one point in the suffragette banners, they had Lucifer as their mascot because he was the light bringer who freed women with knowledge from the slavery of God. Scripturally, they've got Lucifer accurate. Ryan, that was for you because I know you're back there going, well, that's what it said. You're absolutely right. That is what it says. But I'm saying, if you're trying to sell us on the point that these suffragettes were benevolent or all American girls or even oppressed, you're wrong. But beyond the Luciferian elements, there were also extreme leftist and communist elements at work within the suffragette movement. The more you find out about the history that's been hidden from you, the more radicalized you become. I've always been a little more radicalized than most in my circle because I am a self proclaimed history fag. Okay. Because I look into the parts of history that most people don't want to look into, I'm aware of all these things. So when the left comes with their civilized, tolerant narratives and the Howard Zinns of the world and the college professors that follow him sell those narratives to otherwise intelligent people, hashtag OIP, I got to step up and go, hey, didn't roll like that. People get mad. They really, really get mad. Oh, let me roll back that. Bill, I'm glad you defined. Joel, okay, I hear you. I hear you. And you are begging to differ. I was accused earlier in the conversation of down talking non-believers, which I know that was Ryan just giving his playful little jab. I don't talk smack about non-believers. I refer to the fact that I love them and I hope that they come to the light. Uh, but it's never in a disrespectful way. Even when I was Asatru, I would not disrespect the Christian faith that way. Now that I've become Christian, I'm not going to disrespect Asatru that way. And Joel, being Asatru, makes a good point here. I must politely beg to differ. The Bible is not the sword. The sword is the sword. The Bible is another weapon in the arsenal. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Apologies for lack of specificity on that one. Joel, by the way, anybody want to guess the dosage? Anybody want to guess the dosage this week? Huh? Play your odds. Today we discover if blue raz 7-hydroxymetragenine should be pulled off the market as a Schedule 1 because the dose that I just took, if you believe what the FDA had to say about it, should have me slobbering and drooling. By the end of the program, I should start a sibling painkiller, but those of you guys that ever see me on painkillers know what to look for. So, eyes open, full disclosure. Anyway, the more that you learn about history, it's not just secret societies, man. Like the conspiracy guys have always been ahead of the curve, and we're being proven correct more and more and more often. You know what the difference is between a conspiracy theory and mainstream news now? 27 minutes last I checked. I mean, it used to be 6 months, or I used to say everything is tinfoil hat until it's declassified. That's in the Quotable Bart Volume 1, if any of you have it. Oh, you don't, because I haven't published it yet, but it's coming. Everything is tinfoil hat until it's declassified, right? And then it turned into usually about 2 years or 10 years. First it was 10 years, then it was 2 years, then it was 7 months, and now it's down to about 27 minutes. It's because we know things about history that you aren't taught in school. Why? Because we are critical thinkers and we take the time to read. That's why. Okay. So these are important distinctions. But knowing what you know now, feminists, and she's put out an entire book with a bibliography, right? The book is Occult Feminism, The Secret History of Women's Liberation. Now, I know at least one feminist right now who is watching or listening to this program who is shrieking, well, that's all in her context and for her. Okay, well, then read the book. Read the book, fact check it, and show me where she's wrong. Because all I can speak to is the first three that she rattled off, and I fact checked them, and she's correct on every single one. two of which I already knew, in all fairness. But these are the things. The more you find out about history, the more you realize how much the left has shaped that history to their own ends. Hollywood's always been red. The State Department during the McCarthy era was crawling with communists. To this very day, we have communist infiltrators inside the United States government. Not only that, but a lot of these same people are rooted in the occult. And not only that, but a lot of these same people are rooted in the Luciferian, demonic, child sacrificial practices that we're finding out about in the Epstein files. A word about those files. Not everything in those files has any basis in fact. Oh, am I a pedo protector now? Not everything in those files has a basis in fact. Some of them are straight accusations that are as bat crazy as I've heard from flat earthers. Self-contradictory, all of it. As with all things, we've got to use our discernment. But the overarching narrative is true. This world, I don't think it's an accurate statement to say that this world is run by a cult of pedophile blood drinkers. I don't think that's an accurate statement. Let me finish. The more accurate statement would be pedophile occult blood drinkers are inordinately represented among the people that run the world. Let's try that again. For clarity, stay with me, make sure that we're tracking. I do not find it an accurate statement that this world is run by a cult of pedophile, blood drinking, child raping savages. The more accurate historical fact is that occult, blood drinking, child raping savages are inordinately represented among the people who run the world. Important distinction, even if it is a distinction without a difference. Some people would purport that that is a distinction without a difference. I don't hold that. Again, we're getting back to that. It's a secret council of 12 that controls everything from who the next pope is going to be to who wins the Super Bowl to which Canadian is going to be accused of cheating at curling in the Winter Olympics and things like that. That's something that no. But in any case, these people exist. They're doing their best to run damage control right now. But you know, the beauty of this here sword, and Joel, I'll get back to you in a second. The beauty of this here sword is that everything done in the darkness will be brought to the light. They are doing their best to do damage control right now, but the beauty of what we are assured in the word is that everything done in the darkness will be brought to the light. And we are seeing it being brought to the light even as we speak. Joel, with regard to that distinction, you're correct. A sword is a sword. Even a copy of the Bible is not a physical sword in the same way that the Havamal is not a physical axe. Fair? Okay. You're correct. but it's not the sword. The sword is ultimately what kills. Okay, let me be very specific in that. While the sword is actually what kills, it is the person that holds the sword. And it is the ideology that drives the person to bring that sword home to kill. As ideologies go, I stand with this one and I don't look back. And as such, we are in an existential war with Islam and should be living accordingly. Man, I knew you were going to have something. I knew you were going to have something. With regard to that, I've gotten way off task and way off topic here. But I'm really not too worried about it. I want this to be like a conversation. We're all friends. We got a pot of coffee in the middle of the table. Some of you guys might have some other adult beverages of your own choice, on your own volition. But we're just having a conversation. Those were the major bullet points that I wanted to cover. All of the movements that are the ideological home of the American left have their roots in communism and or Luciferianism. Let me say that again for those in the back. Every cause that the current American left roots themselves in turn has its own root in communism or Luciferian doctrine. All of them, without exception. Some examples, Bart. So glad you asked, and I'm glad that you're still tracking. The mutilation of children. You want to hurt God? You guys ever see Nefarious? Excellent film. You should see it if you haven't. If for no other reason than Sean Flannery's performance in that film. It was fantastic. Nefarious. What more damage can you do to God? You can't hurt God. The demon in the film Nefarious said that we can't hurt God, so we hurt you. We hurt you because he loves you. You are his beloved creation. So we hurt you instead because we can't hurt him. The only way we can damage him is to hurt you. And when they go about hurting us, the best way to get to God is to hurt his most vulnerable and most innocent. When the Christian conquistadors arrived in the Americas and found the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Mayas practicing ritual human sacrifice, they were able to lay eyes on evil and say, this is evil. Why? Because they had removed that tradition from pagan religions in Europe. Again, know your history. Human sacrifice was part of the Celtic pagan religion. Human sacrifice was part of some practitioners of Asatru. Some followers of Asatru practice ritual human sacrifice. We kind of got rid of that. We excised that from our spiritual practices as people of European blood, as Christianity assimilated the European continent. And we could get off into intellectual masturbation on other topics in the minutia of it. But getting back to the topic at hand, you want to hurt God, hurt children. Child sacrifice. Even in the scripture, how many times? In fact, from the opener. Let's take it back to the opener. That reading for First Kings. That reading for First Kings. After the big buildup, Elijah said unto them, take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon and slew them there. Every time Old Testament God goes scorched earth, it's because his people turn their back and start sacrificing kids to Baal or to Moloch. Some of the people in those files that everyone's all a jitter about are essentially indulging in those same practices. You could make a case that the ritual mutilation of children that they're calling gender affirming care is an exercise to that very end. Some would, and I think correctly so, make the argument that abortion is the same. Sacrificing children to Moloch or to a Luciferian agenda. So what are you saying, Bart? Every woman that has an abortion is a devil worshiper? That's not what I'm saying at all. What are you saying, Bart? Every child that has a sex change operation, they're bound down to the devil. Their parents are worshiping devils. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the movements are rooted in that. I'm saying that that is their direction. At the very least, they have deliberately rejected God. And in the more likely scenario, they're taking it to the polar opposite end. That's, you know what, man? That's a conversation for me and you to have on the phone after I get done here. So I will give you a call. I think that's a stretch. If you claim red or blue, you support kitty diddlers. I think that's not correct for the same reason that what I just said. It wouldn't be correct for me to say everyone that has an abortion is Luciferian simply because the roots of the abortion movement have Luciferian ends, because the roots of one party or the other have their roots or are overseen by people that diddle kids. That doesn't by extension mean that if I'm with that political party that I am supporting or excusing diddling kids. Not me personally, but in a general sense of the word me. Okay. But again, that's a me and you conversation. I'm gonna stay on point right now. Damn it. See what you're doing. Anyway. Dude, I can just turn you off. I mean, I can. I can do that. So we're just gonna. I'll give you a call after we're done here. In any case, these things have Luciferian ends. They have Luciferian roots. Therefore, they have Luciferian ends. The people who are not culpable are the ones who are caught in the middle. In the same way that leftism drives very good people to do very bad things, in the same way that extremist elements on the right drive very good people to do very bad things, but the only way you are going to be able to use your what? Your discernment. What am I always saying we pray for? At the end of every program, one of the three things that we pray: strength, clarity, discernment, always. And the only way you can effectively use that discernment is if you know your history and if you know your scripture. Roman, I'm going to draw a distinction there. You have leftists in your family who are good people, just naive. If we were having a conversation after I got done with this, like the one that I'm about to have with Ryan, if the distinction between liberal and leftist. You guys know I love my wife. Charlie is a liberal, right? She is far from a leftist, right? I have not found more than a handful of serious devout leftists that came to their conclusions honestly and are, in my assessment, good people. That would include James Raines, may he rest in peace. Um, that would include Jeff Munson, who I had the privilege of conversing with at a Strike Force event in Dallas, maybe a couple of others. Yes, I did see the good people of Iran burning the statue of Baal. Yes, I did see that. And you know what? Now that I've covered all the bullet points, let's just jump into that. Right? I'm not gonna pound it to death with regard to Iran. We all know what happened. I will entertain people's thoughts on the issue, but I'm going to draw some distinctions. Um, on both sides. The left first, because they make it easy. They have been all about free Palestine since this October 7th thing kicked off a couple of years back. But that liberation theology doesn't extend to their Muslim brothers in Iran, the Persian people. And we should draw a distinction there between the Persian bloodline and the Persian heritage and the Iranian regime. We've been involved there for a very, very long time. I can remember being in 5th grade and the hostage crisis. I didn't understand about, oh man, don't take man, I'm just stop, bro. We're jabbing. I was not aware of the things as a child that I'm aware of now with regard to the nature of Islam and our involvement in the affairs. I wasn't aware of what we had done with the CIA coup against Mohammed Mossadegh. I wasn't aware of Reza Pahlavi, the Shah, or the Savak, the secret police, and some of the horrible things that the American puppet regime did to the Persian people, to the Iranian people, for lack of a better word. I didn't have an understanding on that. We have been involved there for as long as we've had a foreign policy. We put our dirty little fingers into everybody's pies there the same way we have done all over the world. No difference. The important difference on this strike and the way that we've engaged the Iranian regime, this Muslim regime in Iran, under Donald Trump, is completely different than we have engaged it under neocon leaning presidents. I'm largely withholding having a solid opinion on how I feel about this. My opinion is based on results. Optimally, the result is the strikes eliminate the Iranian leadership, that the people are able to rise up again as they just did. They're on the ground. America, where are you? America, help us. Trump caught criticism for doing nothing. Now he's doing something and he's catching criticism again. Can we at least all acknowledge that nothing that the orange man does is going to be correct? Through the media lens, nothing that this man does is going to be correct. If he doesn't do anything, he's a coward. Same as we saw with Maduro, right? Follow me on this. The logic tracks throughout Trump's first term. He was constantly criticized for not doing anything about Venezuela. Biden gets in, does nothing about Venezuela, no uproar. Trump gets back in, criticized for not doing anything about Venezuela, does something about Venezuela, and is excoriated for it. Same thing with Iran. Between Obama and Biden flying C-130s loaded with pallets of cash as part of the Iranian nuclear deal. You're essentially paying them. We were paying ransom. Here's a ton of cash that we know is going to fund terrorism. Don't build a nuke. And if you do build a nuke, don't make it obvious. Let's tick off the boxes about why I feel the way that I do. I do not think that Iran is 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. I do not believe that. If indeed they are, they've been 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon since 1980. We have heard this concern for decades now. They're not any closer nor any further away from a nuclear weapon than they've been in the last 30 years. However, they have uranium enrichment facilities, they have uranium enrichment technology, and as such, they represent an existential, de facto nuclear threat. Where do you think the first nuclear weapon in Iran's possession would be targeted? Where do you think that's headed? Sound off in the comments. Where do you think that would head, hypothetically? I'm interested to hear it, seriously. Here's a backdoor approach, and this is a facet. You know what? I'm going to close with that. We're striking the Iranian regime right now in the hopes that eliminating key leadership is going to have the people back in the streets to rise up, and they'll be able to finish the job this time. That the regime, without having a central leadership, will not be able to put down the protests and the demonstrations in the streets. I pray that that is how it pans out. I pray for that. It's a difficult situation. Because I do have a nuanced view on this. But I'm going to take some of my Republican friends to task here for the all in or all out thing. I am either 100% in the camp of we are doing this on Israel's behalf and it's going to wind us up in another forever war and put boots on the ground, or I'm on the other side of the fence. It's an all in or all out deal. And I don't feel that way about this particular situation. I felt like that about the first one. You guys remember last summer, the first set of strikes, and I thought, well, here we go. And it turned out that he was able to thread the needle. The raids accomplished what they needed to accomplish. Got it done. Got us out of there. No fuss, no muss. and didn't wind up with massive troop movements and decades of bloodshed and waste of money and every other damn thing that went along with that. I think the problem a lot of people are having right now is that we are so used to one thing that we can't get it out of our heads when this administration does something different. A war in the Middle East, the models that we have are the first Gulf War, the second Gulf War, and Afghanistan. No end in sight, just there for the defense contractors to pad their pocketbooks and make money year over year over year over year. To accomplish what? Nothing. To give us a stronghold in the region? We already had that. We're doing it all on behalf of Israel? Disagree. I would be a fool if I thought that that wasn't a major tick on the box. Certainly, Israel wanted these strikes to happen. But independent of being a threat to Israel, Iran is a threat, particularly a nuclear Iran, which again, don't really think we're that close, but they do present a threat to the rest of the world. They are a state sponsor of terrorism. They have sleeper cells in the United States, thanks to Biden and open borders for 4 years. They can strike, not as hard, but they can strike anywhere in the world. They can make bad things happen. And they do wish the destruction of America, and they do wish the destruction of the West. Show me a scenario where the strikes against Iranian leadership isn't to our benefit, isn't in our interest, isn't, in fact, America first. Hitting them and getting the hell out of Dodge, controlling the situation, reaching and showing that we can still project power in that part of the world if we need to, and then not needing to. I'm all about it. I think it's brilliant. Have at it. Yes, I know that the tiny hat mob has their fingers in the pie. Yes, I know that Israel is treating us like a checkbook and a client state and all of those things. Yes, I know that the defense contractors are looking at that big juicy rib and saying, one more war, one more war, one more war. I'm aware of all of these things. But in my estimation, and bookmark this so you can come back and check it later. If it turns out I'm completely off base and we find ourselves neck deep in another quagmire, feel free to point it out. But I'm stating for the record right now, I don't think that's what's going on here. We need to hit them. We need to hit them hard. We need to let the rest of the world know that we are still capable. I feel like this in my personal life every time I climb in to move around and spar a little bit. I may be old, but I still got hands. And if they're not getting the signal, light them up. Give them one hard left to let them know what you're still holding. Everything that we have done. And my conservative friends, I love y'all, man. I haven't lost my mind. I know y'all disagree with me on this. Y'all have gone totally, we do this for Israel. Israel's got us on puppet strings. Everything that Trump's doing now is for the tiny hat people. It's just another, endless war president. I don't see it that way. I don't. Nothing has indicated that. Every time I think, well, hey, they're right after all, I wind up being disappointed. Disappointed in a good way. Maduro, securing things in our hemisphere, in our backyard. How the hell was that not an unequivocal win?
We snatched him. We opened the door for them to handle it from there out. And we proved to the Chinese and to the Russians and to everyone else watching, hey, man, FA, we got the FO. That operation was surgery. The bombing raid, first time around, surgery. And I thought, oh, great, here's another endless war in the Middle East. And we didn't get that. I thought the intervention in Venezuela, ruffled up a little bit, but it's like, you think, well, now we're going to be in jungles fighting wars against people. And no, boom, topsy-turvy. We just let them know. We run the show. We run the show in our own hemisphere, especially. We can reach out, smack the hell out of you whenever we feel like it. But it sends a message to the rest of the world, not only that we're capable of doing that, but that we will do it. It's what it used to mean to be an American. I was born in 1969, man. I was in first grade when we had the bicentennial. Yeah? America's 200th birthday. And man, my intellectual curiosity was piqued. I dove into that, man. Read every book I could get my hands on. I had a board game. There was a board game, Revolutionary War board game with like history notes and stuff in it. I had that. Just everything I could get my hands on about the bicentennial. Learning about the Constitution, learning what the founders really wanted for the country, reading the text of the document. And that was rooted in me in first grade. And then going up through the years, seeing the things. And yes, man, I'm perfectly aware of all of the foreign policy mishaps that we've had. I'm fully aware that we do stuff on behalf of corporations. Yes, I've read Smedley Butler. War is a racket. I'm totally aware of all of these things. I was conspiracy when conspiracy wasn't cool. So a lot of my conservative friends may be asking, you know this stuff better than we do, so how can you not see what's going on here? Because I don't think that we're looking at the same thing. We're not gearing up the 82nd and the 101st and the 10th Mountain Division and saying, hey guys, get ready, we're going to rock and roll. Not yet. That could change tomorrow, at which point I will concede I was wrong. But at the end of the day, man, you remember when they told George W. to stop using the word crusade? Stuff related to the Middle East. Do you guys remember that? Do you remember when they told George W. Bush, stop using the word crusade because it will upset Muslims in the United States? That was what I call entry-level dimitude. We should not have to apologize for our actions to appease a particular subset of our population unless that particular subset has nefarious intent of their own. Are you an American first, or are you a Muslim first? Simple enough question and totally fair. Ultimately, we are at war with Islam. Do I think Trump is a devout Christian and he's doing this on behalf of Jesus and all good God-fearing folk? Not by a damn sight, not for a second. One thing Trump is about, and that is the West. He's for the same principles, but for very different reasons. And leaving the orange guy aside, he is surrounded with people who are pursuant to that end, who are finally acknowledging that existential threats against our nation and against our civilization exist. They are present, they are hovering, and they are waiting for us to slip. They smelled weakness for 4 consecutive years, and they exploited that weakness to a degree that is beyond disturbing. Because of that 4 years of weakness, we have sleeper cells inside the United States. We finally have someone in there who's handling business. If the results are what needs to happen, specifically the removal of Muslim leadership in a formerly secular nation, I'm all about it. If we can get it done without the debacles that we have witnessed under Bush, under Clinton, under Bush again, under Obama. This, in my estimation, is not that. So for the moment, just for the moment, I'm going to call it a win. Subject to change without notice. My admonition to you is at least to take into account that maybe, just maybe, you're clinging too hard to your deeply internalized biases because you've seen one pattern over and over and over and over and over again. And pattern recognition is vital. I get it. And maybe I'm totally off base. But I don't think we're seeing the same thing here. I think we are seeing, and leave the orange guy out of the equation. He's not a historical scholar, but the people who are working around him, I believe, are thinking in a very different way than the previous neocon thing, where the object was to get us into that Orwellian forever war and drag it out and pad the bank accounts. I believe that the guys in charge right now are about getting it done. The it in question, meaning securing the interests of the United States. If that happens to bolster the strength of the West as a side effect, I'm all about that. If it happens to take out an Islamic leadership that has hijacked one of the oldest, proudest cultures on the face of the earth, and subjugated under the cancer that is Islam. Cool. Side effect. Great. All about it. He took out Maduro in Venezuela. Yeah, well, he did it for the oil companies. Okay, sure. He took back what was stolen from the oil companies, but ultimately the oil companies are going to benefit. Great. You're right. He did it all for the rich. Does that secure us in our own hemisphere against Chinese interests? Yes, it does. I'm going to give that a thumbs up. Does that ensure that we can go to these other possible misadventures and not have to worry about it? The reason I told y'all to fill your tanks was the possible scenario that we do strikes against Iran and they do what they have done before, and that's send a salvo of missiles into Saudi oil fields at crippled capacity. The rest of the world suffered for that. You know why we didn't? You know why we didn't have to get involved? was because Trump was in the White House and we were a net exporter for the first time in 50 years. So we didn't have to put boots on the ground over there again. It isn't always as simple as they're doing it for the defense contractors, they're doing it for the Jews. It's not always that simple. Yes, they have their hands in the pot. They always do. But we need to be able to recognize a win when we get one. Now, if a week from now, a month from now, turns around and this turns into another quagmire, y'all feel free to throw this up in my face to say, yeah, Bart, you got it wrong. I'll be the first to own it. But for right now, Khamenei is dead. Islamic leadership is scattered. The ones that aren't killed are scattered. And the people have a chance to be free for the first time since the 1970s. If y'all need to wrestle that into a bad thing, I'll leave you to it. God bless you. But for right now, it's a good thing to see. So I'm going to take a moment and feel good about that. Y'all are entitled to think that makes me an asshole, but if that was the tipping point, I don't know what y'all have been drinking for the past 20 years. I'm going to call it a win. And yeah, John, I saw you over there, buddy. Thanks for showing up, first of all. Yep, we are. Not just to screw them, John, but to send them a message that we can still flex, that we can still just do things. We have been so conditioned and become so accustomed to business as usual that we gave up. We just said, this is how it's going to be. And a lot of people are doing it all over again right now. And I get why. The Epstein thing, all the other stuff with Trump, I get why. I'm just not going to blackpill. Maybe that's me being stubborn. Maybe that's me being ignorant. We'll see. But in the meantime, God bless the people of Iran. God bless the soldiers who put themselves in harm's way to do a good thing for the interests of good people. That used to be what we were about. And just for me, it's good to see it again. I'm the Reverend. That is the gospel. I appreciate it. Hey, guys, I'm going to pass that digital collection plate around. Guys, I'm on Cash App. I'm on PayPal. I'm on Venmo. I'm on all that good stuff. If you guys want to drop a little coin, that'd be fantastic. Let me close with a prayer real quick before we get out of here, people. Heavenly Father, I give a deep and sincere prayer for this damaged world. A deep and sincere prayer that these people will come to the light of your truth, Lord. We are at war. We're at war with the rest of the world. We who are in the faith are at war with the rest of the world. We're not without allies. We're not without other people who are genuinely good people to stand in the gap. But at the end of the day, we're hated. We're hated, and they pushed. We push back. Give us the strength for those moments, Lord, and give us the will and the clarity to remember that if the world hates us, it's because it hated you first. We're going to persevere. Lord God, we are going to persevere. No doubt about that. Pray for some of these people who are so quick to black pill that they take the time to use that discernment. They reflect a little bit and realize that, hey, we're in the fight. But that means we're in the fight, meaning we're not out of it. And that we can summon the strength to push through and win this damn thing. I give you thanks for all your many blessings, Lord, and pray that this damaged world comes to the light of your truth. In the mighty name of Jesus of Nazareth, King of kings, Lord of lords, may that day come quickly, that every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. Lord God, I give you thanks. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Love y'all. Gonna go ahead and run that outro music. You guys want to drop me some coin, or that's entirely up to you. That's cool. Here's what you can do, guys. Regardless of that, if you want to drop something that'll help, spread the word. Show them some of the old sermons, some of the new sermons. Put it on your Facebook page. Share it with a buddy who may or may not be of a like mind, but needs to get hit over the head with it once in a while. And here's what you can do further, not just for me, but for yourselves, guys. Stone didn't make it out tonight, but live the 3, baby. Live the 3. What do you mean live the 3? It's the rules of life on planet Mars, man. Rule number 1, you got to be the signal in a world full of noise. What is the noise? The noise is all the distractions. The noise is all the confusions, all the obfuscations when they try to hide the truth from you. You got to be that signal. That signal is the truth. You got to punch that signal through the noise. You got to be the light in a world full of darkness, man. They'll try to bury you with that darkness. They'll try to make you believe that there's nothing out there but the darkness. They'll smother you with it, emasculate you, demoralize you, dehumanize you with the darkness. You have got to be that light in the darkness. That means you got to have the tenacity to carry that light through a long-lasting darkness. And that brings us to a third rule, the final rule, the most important rule, the iron rule: strength in a world full of weakness. And I'm not just talking about this kind of strength. This is all good and everything, but it's got to be here. It's got to be here. Fellas, it's got to be here. You got to find your spine. Let your balls drop. Because without strength, you're not going to be able to punch that signal through the noise. Without strength, you're not going to be able to have the endurance to carry that light through the darkness. We need that. So pray for it. When you hit your knees at night, and you better be praying at night, hit your knees, ask for that strength. Strength above all. Pray for clarity and discernment as well. Because the devil's still out there. He is the father of lies, and he's constantly trying to trip you up. He will look for that chink in your armor, and he will make the most of it to exploit it. So, clarity, discernment. Strength, clarity, and discernment above all other things, guys. Put your face in some scripture and your ass under some iron, and I promise you, your life is going to be a better place. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, because ain't nobody else out there coming to save us. We got God. That's it. Lean on that. Hope y'all come to the light of truth. For those of you who just have good spirits, who haven't come to the faith yet, I embrace you, man. We are in this fight, and we're going to win it. Boss man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. Let the Spirit work through you. Continue to look out for yourselves. Continue to look out for each other. I love y'all. Thank you for being here. Light in the darkness, man. God bless. We'll see you next Sunday. Peace. Take care.